All right. Good morning, everyone. This morning, we're going to be talking about blockchain applications and blockchain technology in online marketplaces. I also want to remind everyone that we have a question and answers box on the top left. So if you guys have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to drop them there. So I'm Shaan. I'm blockchain advisor at Ionixx Technologies, and we build enterprise applications for finance and telecom companies, as well as all types of blockchain applications for startups. We have a team that's proficient in Solidity, and we work with all the major blockchain platforms, both public and private platforms. I'm co-hosting today's webinar with John Chappell. Over to you, John.
Morning, Shaan. Thank you. My name is John Chappell. I'm the Director of Business Development for BlockApps, and we are, if not the first, one of the very first enterprise blockchain platforms. We've been fortunate enough to work with a number of Fortune 500 companies and have a number of applications and projects in full production. And we feel that we create a very robust platform, and it makes it very easy to develop on top of. And so we're excited today to talk about the marketplace and how our platform Strato can really bring these marketplaces to the forefront.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Today we'll be talking about consumer behavior and business strategy and the new reality, the new post-COVID reality, the new normal, if you will. We'll delve into the importance of online marketplaces and the difference between regular and blockchain-enabled marketplaces. And lastly, we'll also be talking about the automotive landscape. Next, please. So retail has seen a significant change. Major online retailers have reported double and triple digit increases in sales of non-essential items during the pandemic. I've linked to that, to the word online. So for our viewers who are going to check this presentation out after the webinar, feel free to check out the hyperlinks. So businesses have been forced to digitize during COVID-19. Even though they may have been pushing back and stalling the process for a while, everyone has kind of been forced to digitize through the lockdowns. This includes video conferencing, remote work, and new forms of communication and collaboration. Even though the restrictions are being eased across the world, a lot of behaviors learned during the lockdowns may remain and form the new normal. Next, please. Right, so online marketplaces are based on trust. So let's say I like a pair of Nike shoes on Nike.com and I find a cheaper option elsewhere on another website. I would probably still stick to Nike.com and pay the premium simply because I trust their website, I trust the payment gateway, and most importantly, I trust the authenticity of the shoes which they'll ship to me. The key in online marketplaces is establishing trust and protecting the customer so they can shop with confidence on your platform. Next, please. Regular marketplaces are prone to identity theft, hacks, and a lack of transparency. Even established marketplaces like Amazon.com have to deal with the issue of counterfeit items and some level of fraud. It's not a major concern, but it is still a concern for players even as big as Amazon.com. Malicious actors on these platforms can vanish pretty fast without a trace. Next, please. So, blockchain tech can help by establishing trust, increasing transparency, and enhancing security. Blockchain databases are decentralized, meaning that there's no single point of failure. If a single server is damaged or hacked, your information is still safe across the rest of the network. John, did you want to add anything else on this topic before we move to the next slide?
Yeah, Shaan, that's a good point, especially, as we really want to try to establish trust. As you mentioned, so many folks have shifted their buying habits from going to the store to really going online, even more so than the trend was going that way during the COVID. So people are looking for a place to buy the product they want from a trusted source and to get what they want when they want it. And again, as we begin to introduce the blockchain technology and distributed ledger and the Strato platform, we're going to talk about several key things that really set a blockchain marketplace apart. The one, as you've alluded to, is security. Everything is encrypted and then distributed across multiple nodes. There's no central point of failure. the transactions are immutable. You don't overwrite the previous transaction, you add the new transaction on. So you always have a full line of traceability to what's happened and with. And so that's also key. And then you have your digital identity. So now you have an encrypted form of who you are and what your key attributes are as a person. And so that you only share what you need to share across the network. And then we'll be talking about here in a few minutes smart contracts and how those help us just create those if-then statements. If a certain condition is met and then a certain process is executed automatically, just making everything more efficient. So we'll kind of cover all that and really tie it into the marketplace. And then really, I know in a little bit, you'll be talking about how this works in the automotive world too.
Awesome. Thanks for that, John.
Yep.
So blockchain can really help with security. Blockchain database, as John mentioned, are highly secure. Once data is entered a blockchain database, it cannot be deleted or tampered with. These databases are append-only, where all previously entered information and data remains intact. So what happens is you add more data to update an entry, but you can never delete or edit the previously entered data. You can just keep adding to it. This feature is what allows cryptocurrencies to run securely without getting hacked. Another added feature is timestamping. All data that enters a blockchain is timestamped and securely stored, providing a chronological record of all activity on the platform. And cryptography keeps the data secured through complex hashing algorithms. I'll leave a link. Actually, I've linked it to the top right of the screen, blockchain security mechanisms, for people who want to learn more about how blockchains are secured. That includes hashing algorithms, cryptography, immutability, and timestamping. Next, please. So immutability is setting something in stone. It becomes very important in online marketplaces because it helps identify malicious actors on the platform. This feature also makes it easier to file returns. So if you want to do a returns claim, and if you want to deal with any legal claims of pretty much any nature, it gives you a chronological timestamped order of all activity on your platform. And that's what makes it important in online marketplaces. I'll let John talk more about traceability and provenance next.
Yeah, thanks, Shaan. So, especially again in the context of the automotive world, in particular, if you can envision yourself in an operation where you need a used car, especially now, there's already been some studies shown early on that people are less likely to use public transportation and are more leaning towards driving themselves. I know RV sales and rentals are at an all-time high right now, as folks try to figure a different way to go. So if you're out there in the used car market, you want to know what you're buying, where it's come from, what the provenance is, and to make sure that you're getting exactly what it is you pay for. And so in this example that we have on the screen, we talk about the traceability. As Shaan has mentioned, everything is appended to the block and timestamped. So you now know exactly where that car originally came from. In a complete network, you have it all the way back to the original manufacturer. You have it through the distribution process, and then to the retailer, and then however many multiple owners you have. The nice thing and how the blockchain helps provide this traceability is also around the fact that we can keep track of the transactions not only between the manufacturer and the distributor, the retail and distributor, and all that information is kept separate, but also on the main chain, if you will. So what I'm talking about there is the main chain keeps track of that primary asset. In this case, we're talking about a car. And then the different transactions that happen between the different individuals are kept on a private chain. So that private information is just between those two individuals, yet we keep track of the overall movement of the car through the thing. So you ultimately have that final provenance. Private chains are a key feature in Strato and how it implements blockchain technology across an enterprise network, or in this case, a marketplace. So the next thing I want to talk about is digital identities. So how do you know that you're dealing with the right person and your information is only going to the people that you want it to? So one of the features of Strato blockchain platform is our ability to control at a very granular level the information that's out there. You can think about it in terms of like your own house, if you will. You can let anybody can kind of come on the street in front of your house, but you can begin to control the permissions of who can come in your yard, who can come on your porch, who can come in the living room, and ultimately who comes into the kitchen and can see in the cupboard. So and this is handled now at the platform level, at the very base of the overall network. So it just creates an entirely new level of security across the network. And so in this case, as you have your digital identity and you have all of the different pieces of who you are, in this case, when you talk about buying a car, you can send your credit application to the bank for approval. And because of all this happened so quickly, you can get instant notification back. When you're ready to, the car has been purchased. We all hate waiting in line at the DMV. This can now send that information straight to the Department of Motor Vehicles, get that registration back instantly. And then also you may even be able to, in a robust marketplace, you can actually submit your information and get quotes on insurance. So as you drive the car off the lot or the car is delivered to your home, you know that it's immediately insured. The next thing I want to talk about is how all this now comes together. We've talked about security, traceability, provenance, digital identity. So how does all this work together? And that's really through the use of smart contracts. Again, this is built in to the very core of the Strato blockchain platform. At its very simplest level, it works on an if-then principle. You essentially form an agreement based in computer code, in this case Solidity, and you put that into the very platform so that anytime an event is triggered, the example we talk about here is an expiration date. It could be the purchase of a vehicle. It could be the request for insurance. Any of those type of triggers that are built into the network, it then prompts a whole new set of actions to happen. And again, because of all these agreements happen automatically, it builds trust into the very network. Now I'm going to let Shaan talk a little bit more about the more robust, the legality, and kind of how the real world of the smart contracts work.
Awesome. Thanks, John. So there are efforts by a few companies to make smart contracts which can hold up in a court of law, where one half of the screen is code and the other side of the screen is the corresponding legal text in plain English or the local language. Smart contracts are made versatile using oracles. Oracles are APIs which send information about real-world events to a smart contract. And smart contracts can be programmed to execute themselves based on specific real-world events. So those events act as triggers that can trigger a smart contract to activate itself. I'm gonna give you guys a quick example. So let's say we're watching the Lakers play the Bulls, and I bet that the Lakers are going to win. You bet that the Bulls are going to win. What we can do is we can enter into a smart contract and take our positions, and we can put a unit of cryptocurrency or a unit of Bitcoin or anything else into those smart contracts. So now the smart contracts hold 2 Bitcoins. One is yours, one's mine, and whoever wins gets both of those contracts, both of those Bitcoins. We could hook an oracle up. So the oracle here would be an API from ESPN or another sports network that we trust. And as soon as the game concludes and the team that won is announced, that's a triggering event for the smart contract to execute itself. So in that sense, in the future, we're going to have smart contracts that can hold up in courts of law because each line of code is going to correspond with a line of legal text. I want to highlight 2 points before jumping into an example about the automotive market. So the first point is, as of 2018, 2 years ago, 57% of the people in the automotive space knew about blockchain technology in some form or the other. And the second point is that the automotive blockchain market will reach 1.6 billion by 2026. I think this is because blockchain-enabled retail is something they're aware of, but more importantly, it might be blockchain-enabled sourcing, where the entire automotive supply chain is blockchain-enabled and all the moving parts are on one platform. Because I know automotive companies source parts from different parts of the world from multiple vendors, so it is really, really complex. And that's the reason I think people in this industry are hyper aware of the technology. Next, please. So I want to jump into an example. So let's say I want to purchase a car today. The parties involved are going to be me, the salesperson, the showroom, the bank, my bank, the showroom's bank, an insurance company, the DMV, pollution control, and the postal system. So what happens is, as soon as I agree that I want to buy this car, we shake on it, and then we start the paperwork. And the paperwork goes back and forth. There's all these checks and measures. There's all these approvals we have to get. There has to be commissions paid out. My loan has to be processed. Then the DMV has to send my plates, and pollution control has to certify that the vehicle's fine. And then the postal system takes 10 days to 2 weeks to deliver all the documents to my address. And then I can put my sticker on my license plate, and I'm good to go. So from the point that I decide to buy the car till everything is done, it's about 10 days to 2 weeks, depending on how fast you're moving. Each of these parties, the ones that I mentioned previously, have their own processes, they have their own protocols, and they maintain their own ledgers. The entire process takes about 10 days to 2 weeks. Now, if all the users were put on a single platform with smart contracts governing each process, the transaction time would be cut down from 2 weeks to a matter of minutes, where smart contracts would be the ones managing all the logic, all the permissions, and doing all the calls to see whether the loans are qualified, whether a pollution check has been done, DMV would be informed, my license would be checked. Everything would be done using smart contracts, and it would happen in a matter of minutes. So I've laid out the entire process, and I'll let John talk more about what they're doing in the space, as well as maybe cover another couple of use cases.
No, thanks, Shaan. It is. And so what I'm going to talk about is we've already started this process to building up this robust marketplace around the automotive portion. We've been fortunate enough at BlockApps to have a couple of customers and to put a couple of pilot operations into place that would fit right onto this network. The first I'm going to talk about is the Minqing Insurance Company. They're a very distributed insurance company in China, and one of their challenges was to kind of implement their employee reward system across the way and to keep track of it and who has what and how those rewards were redeemed internally. And so again, an ideal situation, it became essentially an internal marketplace for the loyalty rewards. The key thing here is that we already have insurance customers on board, and because of how Strato is designed to be very scalable and extensible, it's a very short leap to then take this same network that we already have with Minqing and to put it on a broader automotive marketplace. And now I'll let people be able to come in and get quotes and get a new policy if they're already a current customer, update their policy based on the new car and the different requirements that they may have in that particular state or county. And so you can see that there's already people thinking about how to use the blockchain in whether it be an internal marketplace for their loyalty, or even then to make it extensible over to a broader automotive marketplace. The next thing that we've worked on already is a state back in the Northeast here in the U.S. Where we've worked with them and their DMV to begin to put their vehicle tracking onto a blockchain network. This has many advantages for them in that it begins to have a single immutable database of vehicle ownership and a full traceability of when it was registered and to whom. So all the advantages that we talked about being good for a marketplace are also good for just the overall provenance of an asset. In this case, you can think of the asset as the actual registration. Because Strato is built on a RESTful API, it makes interoperability and integration to other systems very straightforward and very easy. So in this case, As you might imagine, a state has any number of legacy systems out there that need to be integrated with, that have the information to be pulled from. And so Strato can kind of work as that glue in the middle of all of these different systems. And again, we have just a tremendous insight overall into the history of that automotive thing, of the automotive registration rather. And so this network is already up and running, and again, it's focused internally, but again, it's a very easy move to now take this same network and connect it to a broader automotive network, where you can see now that as you complete the bill of sale, that once you're ready to pay your taxes and registration fees, that you can do that seamlessly, because these two networks now talk to each other, they talk in the same language, and your registration process happens immediately. Again, if anyone out there has ever had to register a car from one state to another, there are pictures of IDs, of insurances, of pollution control certificates, safety inspection certificates, the right form filled out with all the right boxes checked. And if you're like me, I never get it right the first time, and often leave in frustration to go back and get the right form with the right stuff on it and then come back. So again, when you integrate some of these key pieces as Shaan described, a very complex and many users involved in the automotive, the purchase of an automobile, whether it's new or used, the blockchain can really then help tie all these different things together very quickly and very seamlessly. We're going to shift for a minute and talk a little bit about some other work that we're doing in other marketplaces. This is a project that is currently in development. It'll be rolled out in the next couple of months as it goes live. But in this situation, we're talking about a carbon marketplace. As we all strive to become better stewards of our environment, many cities, counties, countries, industries all have significant initiatives towards reducing their carbon footprint as quickly as possible. And a part of that challenge right now is to know if what different people are claiming is true. How do we validate that I've reduced my carbon footprint? And again, so there's a lot of the same issues we talked about: security, trust, immutability, and traceability come into play in this marketplace. So if you look on the left, you can think of a building in this example as a key generator of CO2. Different, whether it's air conditioning, heating, the lighting, all those things contribute to their footprint. So what you're able to do is, instead of a digital identity of a person, you now have the digital identity, or what we call a keyed Internet of Things device. These are different meters and measurement items now that are independent, that take data readings and then send those data readings on to the blockchain. Again, so now you have an immutable record that's appended, never changed, and fully traceable. You have the same thing going on the other half of the marketplace, where buildings and individuals are putting processes and different items in place to remediate that CO2 or to lower it. An easy example is a building converts from the old incandescent lighting to new LED lighting. If you put the right meters in place, you can get a baseline for what the usage of electricity was before, and then you can have it after, and that delta now generates a lowering of the carbon footprint. Again, you keep all that on this keyed IoT, or the digital identity, if you will, of these different meters. And again, the blockchain now, through smart contracts that we talked about, reconciles all this information and creates this single source of truth and this immutable. One of the nice things about the blockchain, we talked about privacy and provenance, or governance rather, is that you can have a regulator view. Somebody, an independent third party, or the government can now look and see the broader transactions, not the private details, but they can see that broader transaction and be assured that the right things are happening and that everything is above board. And once you have all this verification, now you have the ability to buy and sell carbon credits. So again, whether we're talking about carbon credits and working on improving the footprint of our neighborhood, or we're looking for ways to find a very trusted way to buy a used car. Again, especially in this new post-COVID world, it looks like people will be wanting to try to travel by themselves and be less dependent on public transportation and continue social distancing. So you want to know that you're getting exactly the car you're paying for. And so the blockchain can, again, give you that that trust and that complete provenance of the car you're buying, so you know where it's been and what it's going for. I think that's all we have today. Shaan, if there's anything you want to add, or if we can open it up for any questions at this point.
Thanks, John. I think you've covered it all.